Peter Parker's face has just appeared on every screen in New York. Mysterio is dead, and his final message accuses Spider-Man of murder before exposing the teenager beneath the mask. Many people still believe Mysterio died as a hero, so the edited footage makes Peter look like his killer. Within seconds, reporters surround Peter and MJ. Strangers begin recording them, and the whole city turns their private lives into public property. Peter grabs MJ and swings her away from the crowd. The escape only creates a bigger spectacle, as phones track them across rooftops and news helicopters follow from above. Even stopping for a moment draws another wall of cameras. By the time they reach Peter's apartment, MJ is terrified, Peter is overwhelmed, and neither of them has had a second to understand what Mysterio just did. They climb through the bedroom window and find May and Happy in the middle of an uncomfortable conversation. Happy is trying to process their breakup when Peter admits that everyone now knows he is Spider-Man. Any awkwardness disappears as helicopters flood the windows with light and reporters gather outside the building. Peter's home is no longer safe. The Department of Damage Control soon brings Peter, May, MJ, Ned, and Happy in for questioning. The agents separate them, surround them with evidence, and pressure each one for information. Peter keeps trying to protect the others from the investigation. MJ and Ned understand exactly what the officers are doing, so neither friend gives them the betrayal they want. Attorney Matt Murdock eventually explains that the government does not have enough evidence to prosecute Peter for Mysterio's death. Legally, that is a victory. Publicly, nothing has changed. A brick crashes through the apartment window with a message supporting Mysterio, and Matt catches it before it can hit Peter. Peter is impressed, but the attack makes one thing clear: winning in court will not make the hatred disappear. With strangers watching the apartment day and night, Peter and May move into Happy's condo. It gives them security, but not privacy. Happy's cameras cover the building, and even inside, Peter cannot escape the feeling that someone is always looking at him. His first day back at Midtown High feels more like a press event than school. Supporters cheer for Spider-Man, protesters call him a murderer, and cameras follow him to the entrance. The crowd closes around Peter and MJ until security pulls them through the doors. Inside, teachers display a shrine celebrating him, and classmates stare from every hallway. Peter realizes that nobody sees an ordinary student anymore. The school roof becomes the only quiet place left. Peter, MJ, and Ned sit together and talk about college. All three want to attend MIT, although MJ refuses to get excited before they receive an answer. She would rather expect disappointment than let another rejection hurt her. Peter holds on to the hope that college might give them a fresh start somewhere beyond the chaos. One rejection letter follows another. Peter tries to stay positive because MIT is still their first choice. When its envelope finally arrives, he takes it to the coffee shop where MJ works so the three friends can open their letters together. None of them gets in. Their records are not the problem. The decision specifically mentions the controversy surrounding Spider-Man, proving that Peter's exposed identity has now reached into all three futures. Peter can live with losing his own chance, but he cannot accept that MJ and Ned are paying for his choices. With no ordinary solution left, he visits Dr. Strange at the New York Sanctum. The entrance hall is buried in snow because one of the Sanctum's magical doorways has allowed a blizzard inside. Wong is now the Sorcerer Supreme, and he immediately warns Strange not to do anything reckless. Peter first asks whether the Time Stone could undo Mysterio's reveal. Strange reminds him that the stone is gone, and that tampering with time again is not an option. Peter explains that he is not asking for himself. He only wants to give his friends back the futures they lost because of him. Strange offers a different answer, a spell that will make everyone forget Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Deep beneath the Sanctum, he begins casting it while Wong leaves and makes it clear he wants no part in the decision. Only after the spell is underway does Peter realize that everyone includes MJ, Ned, May, and Happy. Peter repeatedly asks Strange to change the spell so certain people can keep their memories. Each new exception makes the magic more unstable. Strange finally traps the corrupted spell before it can break loose, then learns that Peter never called MIT to appeal the decision. Furious that Peter endangered reality before trying the simplest solution, he throws him out. Peter learns that an MIT assistant vice chancellor is heading to the airport. He swings onto the Alexander Hamilton Bridge and finds her car trapped in traffic. Peter asks her to reconsider MJ and Ned, carefully making their case without demanding anything for himself. He explains that his friends should not lose their futures because they know Spider-Man. Before she can answer, his spider sense warns him that danger is approaching. Metal arms tear through the highway and hurl cars across the bridge. Dr. Otto Octavius rises from beneath the road, sees Spider-Man, and attacks the man he believes ruined his machine. Peter has never met him, but Ock clearly recognizes the name Peter Parker. Every mechanical arm moves like a separate attacker, forcing Peter to dodge several directions at once. Their fight sends vehicles crashing while the assistant vice chancellor remains trapped inside her car. Ock pins Peter and tears away part of the iron spider suit. The stolen nanotechnology spreads across one mechanical arm and merges with its its controls. Peter's mask disappears, revealing a face Ock has never seen. Ock finally understands that this is not the Peter Parker he came to kill. While the doctor hesitates, Peter uses the suit's connection to command the tentacles and move the falling car back onto the bridge. The assistant vice chancellor promises to ask MIT to reconsider all 3 applications. Peter barely has time to react before Green Goblin appears through the smoke and throws a pumpkin bomb. A portal opens around Peter and Ock before the attack reaches them, dropping both inside the Sanctum's underground chamber. Ock is locked inside a magical cell beside another prisoner, Dr. Kurt Connors, now transformed into the Lizard. Strange explains that Peter's damaged spell pulled in people from other universes who know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. He gives Peter a gauntlet that can teleport each visitor into a cell, then orders him to find the rest while Strange repairs the spell. MJ and Ned join the search from the Sanctum. Online reports point them toward unusual activity near a military research facility, including sightings of something flying above the area. Ock identifies the description as Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin, but insists that Norman cannot be there. In Ock's world, Norman died years ago. Peter reaches the forest that night and follows flickering power lines to a figure made of electricity. Every nearby lamp goes dark as Max Dillon pulls the current into himself. The Gauntlet's first blast passes through his energy form without capturing him. Electro strikes back, throwing Peter through the trees before charging enough power to finish him. A wall of sand rises between them and absorbs the attack. Flint Marko recognizes Spider-Man, but assumes he is the Peter from his own world. Peter quickly explains that Max is the threat, and Flint agrees to help. Sandman traps Electro inside a swirling column while Peter disconnects the power lines feeding him. Without that electricity, Max returns to human form. He notices that the energy in this universe feels different and looks over a body that no longer appears the same. Peter sends him to the Sanctum before he can learn more. Flint sees Max vanish and thinks Peter killed him. When Sandman turns on Peter, the Gauntlet transports him into another cell as well. Back underground, Max meets Connors, while Ock watches the growing collection of impossible visitors. These men recognize names and enemies from their own worlds, yet several details do not match. Peter is beginning to understand that they did not all come from the same reality. The next lead comes from May. Norman Osborn has walked into the F.E. Asti shelter where she works, confused, frightened, and asking for Spider-Man. Peter rushes there expecting another attack. Instead, he finds Norman sitting quietly with May. Norman says Oscorp does not exist in this universe. His home belongs to someone else, and his son is nowhere to be found. He also admits that another personality lives inside him. When the Goblin takes control, Norman cannot stop what his own body does. May sees a sick man with no one left to help him. Peter only sees a dangerous problem that belongs to another universe. He argues that sending Norman home is the safest choice, but May reminds him that having the power to help makes walking away a choice too. Reluctantly, Peter brings Norman to the Sanctum. Ock is stunned to see his old friend alive. Norman is equally shaken when Flint explains that both he and Ock died while fighting Spider-Man. Ock remembers the machine in the river, and Norman remembers facing his glider, but neither remembers surviving. Peter realizes that at least some of these men will be returned directly to battles that killed them. Strange arrives with a magical cube containing Peter's corrupted spell. Once he activates it, every visitor will return to the exact point from which they were taken. The villains panic because going home means facing the battles waiting for them, and some already know those battles end in death. Strange calls that their fate. Peter cannot accept it. As Strange prepares to send them back, Peter webs the cube out of his hands and locks the sorcerer in a cell. Strange escapes almost immediately and pursues him through the Sanctum. Portals send Peter falling through the building as the cube keeps changing hands. When Peter still refuses to surrender it, Strange knocks his astral form out of his body. Even then, Peter's spider sense keeps his physical hands moving and prevents Strange from taking the cube. Peter returns to his body and runs, only for Strange's cloak to drag him into the mirror dimension. Buildings fold, streets bend, and the city gives way to the Grand Canyon as Strange reshapes the world around them. Peter stops fighting the impossible landscape and studies it. Recognizing a repeating geometric pattern, he calculates where the surfaces will move and places his webs accordingly. The lines tighten at once, trapping Strange inside his own design. Peter leaves the sorcerer suspended above the Grand Canyon inside the mirror dimension and takes his sling ring. He returns to the prisoners stunned that he actually defeated Dr. Strange. Peter gives them a choice. They can wait for the sorcerer and risk being sent back back to die, or they can let Peter cure the conditions that made them villains. Norman, a scientist himself, offers to help. Even Ock agrees because a cure could change what happens when they go home. Before leaving, Peter gives the cube to MJ and the sling ring to Ned. If the plan fails, MJ will press the cube's button and send everyone home. She warns Peter that if he disappears or stops responding, she will not wait forever. This is his second chance to save the villains, not permission to risk every other life around him. Peter takes May and the visitors to Happy's condo. A Stark fabricator can analyze their conditions and build the technology needed to reverse them. Norman works beside Peter, while Ock, Max, Flint, and Connors watch with different levels of trust. Lizard remains outside in the truck because no one wants him loose inside the building. Max looks over a city overflowing with electricity and begins imagining what he could become if he stays. The first cure replaces the damaged inhibitor chip that once protected Ock's mind from his tentacles. Peter attaches the device to the doctor's neck, and Ock collapses as the artificial voices fall silent. The arms rise over Peter, making everyone fear the repair has failed. Instead, Otto calmly commands them to stop. For the first time in years, he is in control, and his gratitude tells Peter the plan can work. They begin building cures for the others. Norman develops an anti-serum for the Goblin, while Peter creates devices to drain Max's excess energy and restore Flint's human form. The progress makes May hopeful. It also makes Max uneasy, because being cured now means surrendering power he has only just begun to enjoy. Outside, Jameson's crew watches the condo, waiting for footage that can be used against Spider-Man. Peter's spider sense suddenly erupts. He walks through the condo, listening to every movement while the others fall silent. Norman appears calm, but Peter knows the man standing before him is no longer Norman. He webs one hand to the wall just as the Goblin drops the act. The Goblin tells the others that Peter does not want to save them. He wants to take away the gifts that make them powerful. Electro tears off his unfinished cure, destroys part of the fabricator, and steals the condo's arc reactor. Sandman and Lizard escape, while Max attacks Ock and forces him from the building. Cameras outside capture the violence without the choices that caused it. The Alliance collapses in seconds. Peter tells May to run and attacks Goblin. Their fight tears through walls, hallways, and apartment floors. Peter slams Goblin through one level, only for the villain to laugh and drag him through the next. Goblin absorbs every punch with a smile, then turns the beating back on Peter until they crash into the lobby. Peter keeps fighting, but the man in front of him seems stronger with every blow. May reaches the lobby with Norman's anti-serum and injects Goblin. Nothing happens. The formula is incomplete. Goblin calls in his glider, which tears through the entrance and strikes May before slamming into the building. He leaves behind pumpkin bombs and escapes as the lobby erupts. For a moment, May manages to stand. Peter reaches her, and she insists that helping the villains was still the right decision. Even after everything that happened, she does not regret trying to save them. When Peter says their lives were never his responsibility, she tells him that great power must come with great responsibility. Only then does he notice the blood spreading across her clothing. May collapses. Peter catches her, calls for help, and keeps asking her to wake up long after she stops responding. For several seconds, he remains on the floor beside her while sirens close in. Happy arrives outside and understands what happened through the broken glass. Police surround his car, so he shouts for Peter to run. Gunfire drives Peter away before he can even say goodbye. J. Jonah Jameson reports from the wreckage and presents May's death as another disaster caused by Spider-Man. Peter watches from a rooftop in the rain, injured and alone. He has no defense left to offer and no one beside him to hear it. Peter wanted to save everyone. Instead, May is gone. The villains are loose, and the city now has one more reason to hate him. At Ned's apartment, MJ holds the cube and considers pressing its button. Peter is not answering, and their promise gives her every reason to end the crisis. Ned tries using Strange's sling ring to find Peter. A portal finally opens, revealing a Spider-Man standing in an alley. The masked hero steps through, but MJ immediately senses something is wrong. When he removes the mask, they see a different Peter Parker. They make him prove he is Spider-Man, and he clings to the ceiling without effort. Yet he has no idea where their Peter is. This visitor has been searching for him since arriving because he feels that the younger Peter needs help. Ned tries again. The next portal reveals an older, casually dressed Peter Parker. The two visitors study each other, test their reflexes with a burst of webbing, and confirm that both are versions of the same hero. Ned's grandmother is less impressed and makes them clean the webs from her house. Neither Spider-Man knows knows where Peter has gone, but both understand the need to disappear after a loss. MJ remembers the place where Peter goes when he wants to be alone. She leads everyone to the roof of Midtown High, where he sits beside the ruined cures with May's death pressing down on him. MJ and Ned hold him while he finally breaks. When Peter sees the two strangers, he reaches for the cube and says he is finished trying to save the villains. The older Peter tells him that Uncle Ben died because of him. The other admits he could not save Gwen Stacy, and eventually let grief turn him bitter and violent. Their pain does not erase Peter's, but it keeps him from facing it alone. When he repeats May's final lesson about power and responsibility, both men already know the words. Across 3 universes, each Spider-Man was shaped by the same truth and the loss that came with it. Peter begins to believe that May did not die for nothing. The 3 Peters return to the school's chemistry lab and rebuild every cure. The Spider-Man who once fought Connors handles the lizard formula. The older Peter finishes Norman's anti-serum after years of thinking about his old enemy. Peter 1 repairs the devices for Electro and Sandman. All 3 answer whenever someone says Peter, and Ned becomes nervous after learning that another Peter's best friend once tried to kill him. With the cures ready, Peter broadcasts a message from the Statue of Liberty. Renovation scaffolding surrounds the monument, along with a massive Captain America shield. He displays Strange's cube and challenges the remaining villains to come for it. The location keeps the fight away from the city and draws every threat to one place. MJ and Ned remain in the school lab, ready to protect the cube if the battle turns against him. Electro arrives first, now supercharged by the stolen arc reactor. Sandman and Lizard follow, and the 3 Spider-Men attack from different directions. Their abilities match, but their instincts do not. Each man is used to fighting alone, so they interrupt one another, miss openings, and nearly lose the cures in the chaos. They regroup on the statue and finally communicate. Peter admits that he has fought with the Avengers and knows how to work on a team, so the others let him coordinate. He identifies himself as Peter 1, calls the older visitor Peter 2, and names the other Peter 3. Instead of chasing separate enemies, they choose one target at a time and move as a team. Sandman comes first. Peter 3 throws Flint's cure to Peter 1, who passes it through the statue to Peter 2. Sand closes around Peter 2 until only one hand remains visible. He activates the device, releasing a burst of golden light through the storm. The enormous body falls apart, leaving Flint human again. Ned cannot close the opening. Lizard sees it, charges through, and begins chasing them around the room. MJ and Ned escape through the same portal onto the statue, with Peter 1 and Lizard fighting across it behind them. They grab Connor's cure and pass it to Peter 1, who releases it into the creature's mouth. A cloud spreads across his body, restoring Dr. Connors. Electro remains the greatest threat. The arc reactor lets him overpower Peter 2 and Peter 3 even when they attack together. Dr. Octavius suddenly returns and appears to seize the Spider-Man with his tentacles. Max celebrates too early. Ock turns on him, tears away the reactor, and attaches the cure that drains the electricity from his body. Ned opens another portal, but this time Doctor Strange steps out. After spending roughly 12 hours trapped above the Grand Canyon, he is furious with Peter. Then Ned explains that the plan worked. Peter and the others have already cured every villain they could reach, giving them a real chance to survive once they return home. Green Goblin arrives before Strange can repair the spell. He attacks from his glider, throwing pumpkin bombs across the statue. Ock catches several, and Strange pulls the cube back after Goblin steals it. None of them notices the bomb hidden inside until all 3 Spider-Men sense the danger. The cube explodes. Strange's spell bursts free. The giant shield breaks loose, and the scaffolding begins collapsing. MJ falls through the metal framework. Peter 1 dives after her, but Goblin slams him away before he can reach her. Peter 3 sees MJ falling and launches himself into the drop. He catches her before she hits the ground and lands safely with her in his arms. When MJ asks whether he is all right, he can barely hold back his emotion. He could not save Gwen in his own world. This time, he reached her. Above them, the broken spell tears glowing cracks across the sky. Strange tries to contain it as figures from other universes gather behind the openings. Ned also falls from the scaffolding, but Strange's cloak catches him and lowers him safely to the base of the statue. Peter 1 crashes with Goblin onto the fallen shield. Grief takes control, and Peter stops fighting like a hero. He pounds Goblin into the metal, lifts the bladed glider, and prepares to kill the man who murdered May. Peter 2 steps between them them and catches the glider above Goblin's body. He does not need to say anything. His face reminds Peter that revenge never healed the loss of Uncle Ben. For several tense seconds, Peter 1 keeps pushing down while Peter 2 holds the blades back. Peter finally releases the weapon, choosing May's lesson over the anger consuming him. Goblin uses that moment to stab Peter 2 in the back. Peter 3 runs forward with the completed anti-serum and throws it across the gap. Peter 1 catches the device and injects Goblin. The violent expression disappears, leaving a horrified Norman Osborn staring at the damage around him. Peter 2 is wounded but alive, and the three Spider-Men share one final moment together. The crisis is not over. The damaged spell keeps pulling in everyone across the multiverse who knows Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and Strange can no longer hold the rifts shut. Peter realizes that the original spell can still work if it removes the person connecting all those worlds. He asks Strange to make everyone forget Peter Parker entirely. The price is absolute. MJ, Ned, Happy, and every person Peter has ever known will lose all memory of him. Strange hesitates, but Peter accepts the cost. Before the spell begins, he thanks Peter 2 and Peter 3. The three heroes embrace, knowing they will return to separate universes carrying the same responsibility. Peter finds Ned and MJ and explains what is about to happen. He promises he will find them afterward and make them remember. Ned gives him their secret handshake one last time before the two friends embrace. MJ tells Peter that she loves him. When he starts to answer, she asks him to wait and tell her after he finds her again. They kiss as Strange begins the spell. The cracks close as Max, Otto, Norman, Flint, Connors, Peter 2, and Peter 3 fade back into their own universes. MJ silently tells Peter she loves him once more before the spell washes over her. The world still knows Spider-Man, but no one remembers the person beneath the mask. Peter saves reality by erasing himself from the lives he fought so hard to protect. Weeks later, Peter walks through the snow, rehearsing how he will explain everything to MJ. He enters her coffee shop with a written speech in his pocket. Ned arrives, and Peter learns that both of them have been accepted to MIT. They are safe, excited, and moving forward. MJ shows a brief flicker of recognition when Peter repeats one of her familiar expressions. He is ready to tell her the truth until he notices the healing cut above her eye from the battle. The injury reminds him what being close to Spider-Man has already cost her. Peter puts the speech away and leaves without asking her to carry that danger again. At May's grave, Peter meets Happy, who no longer recognizes him. Both men say they knew her through Spider-Man. Happy wonders whether everything May stood for died with her. Peter quietly assures him that the people she helped will keep her work alive. Even without her memory of him, her lesson still guides every choice he makes. Peter moves into a small apartment with almost nothing. A GED study guide sits among his few belongings, along with the Lego figure that once connected him to Ned. Scraps of red and blue fabric surround a sewing machine. With Stark technology gone and no one left to support him, Peter creates a new suit with his own hands. Snow falls over Rockefeller Center as Spider-Man climbs through the window and returns to the city. Peter Parker has lost his family, his friends, and his place in the world. Still, when a police call comes through, he does not hesitate. The new red and blue suit cuts across the winter sky, and although the world has forgotten Peter, Spider-Man keeps moving forward.